Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, J. Let's talk. With 2 weeks in the NFL books, let's take a slow walk around the NFL and talk about what we've learned. Last week, it was, okay, take number 2. Take number 3, go. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, J. Let's talk. With 2 weeks in the NFL books, let's take a slow walk around the NFL. Maybe a quick walk around the NFL, and let's talk about what we're seeing. I said a couple of weeks ago before the season started that this would be the type of season that you would throw history out of the window and you're going to have to deal with what's happening right now. And right now, specifically in the AFC, you got several teams who are 2-0 that many may not have expected to be 2-0. Of course, the Buffalo Bills are 2-0. The Cincinnati Bengals are 2-0, and that's with losing Joe Burrow last week. You have the Indianapolis Colts surprise team, 2-0. You have the Los Angeles Chargers, 2-0. And there may be one more that I'm not considering, but those teams are 2-0. And we're going to talk about who of those have staying power. You have several teams that are 1-1, and then you have about 4 teams that are 0-2. And those 0-2 teams do include the division winning, AFC winning, Super Bowl participant, Kansas City Chiefs, and also a playoff participant from last season, division winner, Houston Texans. And so when you look at those 2-0 teams, of course, we understand that the Buffalo Bills have staying power. And what I've seen from the Buffalo Bills this season, both when they played against the Ravens and what I paid attention to this past matchup against the New York Jets, was that the Buffalo Bills have multiple ways to win at this point. When you look at their offense, they definitely can throw it and run it with Josh Allen, but then he can also turn around and hand it to James Cook, who can get the job done. They don't have that quote-unquote superstar wide receiver, but the guys they have in-house are getting the job done. When you look at that Buffalo Bills defense, they're not elite as it pertains to names on the back of the jersey, but they're consistent, they're steady, and they're solid, right? And so sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes all you need is a consistent offense that can be high-powered if you need it to be. It can be methodical if you need it to be, and a defense that can stay the course. And that's what Buffalo has shown this season. In fact, the Buffalo Bills this past week went up against a tough Jets defense, and they didn't even need Josh Allen to put the cape on. If I remember correctly, he only had about 145, 150 yards passing, and they were just led by the run game and the defense. So Buffalo looks like they're here to stay for sure. And when you look at the weakness of their schedule, this is not a shot at Buffalo. You can only play who you play. But when you look at the weakness of their schedule, Buffalo has an opportunity to keep winning for a long stretch this season. Let's jump down to the number 2 seed right now if the playoffs were to start, and that's the Indianapolis Colts, a surprise team, a team that a couple of years ago drafted Anthony Richardson. That hasn't gone well. They traded for a quarterback. He hasn't been able to get on the field because of injury, and steps in Daniel Jones, a free agency pickup. And that has seemed to be the best move. Daniel Jones played well this offseason, and he stepped into this regular season. He's been dialed in. He has been dealing. And I'm not jumping on the Daniel Jones hype, nor am I jumping on the Indianapolis Colts making the playoffs or anything like that. But what you see from Indianapolis is an ability to pass it, because they do have weapons: Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell. They have a above average offensive line, and they have a running back who's still proven himself to be one of the best in Jonathan Taylor. And so this offense is well balanced. Daniel Jones has not had to run the ball much this season like he did in New York in past seasons. And so if you can keep Daniel Jones protected, they may be able to make some noise. In fact, depending on what happens over the next 2 or 3 games, they could take the division away from the Houston Texans. And so we have to wait and see about that. But defensively for the Indianapolis Colts, they play solid from front to back. Again, I don't recall any what you call elite talent as far as name on the back of the jersey. I know DeForest Buckner, I think, is still there, so he's a good talent, but they're just playing solid. They'll run, hit, defend the run, defend the pass, and they're winning. And You'll have to see what they do when the competition raises. I think the game against the Denver Broncos was a good test, which they did win that game close, 29-28. So quality win against a playoff team from last season. So we'll have to wait and see what the Indianapolis Colts continue to do. All right, let's get into the Chargers. The Chargers was a team who got rid of their old coach, brought in Jim Harbaugh. They made the playoffs last year under Jim Harbaugh, and you could see an immediate improvement with the Chargers' ability to be consistent, the Chargers' ability to protect Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert still isn't, quote unquote, playing elite. He's just playing consistent. And you saw that last year, and you're seeing that this year. And I think that will be an opportunity to keep him healthy, which has been part of the Chargers' problem over the last couple of seasons, is not being able to keep Justin Herbert healthy. He has all of the tools, big arm, he can run with it, he's strong, 6'5", all of that, all of the metrics. They have a solid above average offensive line. They have revamped their running back room, add Najee Harris to that equation. They have rebuilt the wide receiver room, bringing back Keenan Allen to go with the young talent, Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson, I believe. And so offensively, they're well balanced. Defensively, they will run and hit, right? Darren James that may not be his name. His name may be Darren James. I may have his name wrong. But anyway, the safety, he's one of the best in the league. He's patrolling that secondary. He has those guys playing well. And then Dante Jackson, a cast off from the Carolina Panthers in a trade, who went to Pittsburgh last season. And now he is in Los Angeles, and he's playing very well. And so I think he has 2 picks this season. And I think that if he stays healthy, he's going to add something valuable to this secondary, which we're seeing. And so I think the Chargers have staying power. Will they win the division? It's quite possible, especially since their highest competition in that division, that being the Kansas City Chiefs, are 0-2, which means they literally have a 2-game lead on the Chiefs, having beat them in game 1. And so let's jump to the Chiefs, since I've already brought them up. The Kansas City Chiefs, let me just say, don't seem to be their historical selves. That's part of the reason why I said you have to throw history out of the window. They could get upset for the division this season. I'm not counting them out, because we know that when you got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, you do have an opportunity to win. But the truth is, you're going to get old at some point. Patrick Mahomes is not old, but some of the parts around him are getting up in the years. And with Rice out right now, their pass game doesn't seem to be as thorough. And I think that's part of the problem. Xavier Worthy, draft pick from last season, first rounder, he's okay, but he's really just a deep threat. He can do some other things, but he really just is a deep threat with his level of speed. But you don't really see things clicking offensively. And I think a part of that is them trying to rebuild the offensive line on the fly. And as we know, as Ravens fans, when you don't have that offensive line in place, you're going to struggle no matter who your quarterback is. And so I think teams better take advantage right now, because I think if they get to the trade deadline, I do think they make a trade this season. And when Rice gets back, I do think their offense will go up a level. But how long will it take for him to be integrated? So we'll see, because I think he's going for 6 games. And other 0-2 teams, you got the Houston Texans, right? The Houston Texans are 0-2, lost to the Rams, and then they lost last night to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Tampa Bay defensively is actually better than what I remember them being. And they really just kind of put the clamps on Houston last night. And Houston hasn't really got off to that start, that fast start. And so the question is going to be, can they catch Indianapolis? Will Indianapolis fall off and Houston regain their dominance in that division? Or will the Colts maintain their lead and Houston not be able to catch up? That's a real question. Houston has all the talent, but what Houston also did is what the Chiefs did. They tried to rebuild the offense on the fly, getting rid of Laramie Tunsil, trading him to the Commanders, and bringing in some new talent. Let's just call it that. And so I think that they're going to need a few weeks to get acclimated, but they can't afford to keep moving in the wrong direction because they're on the outside looking in their division right now, right? Let's look at some 1-1 teams. The Ravens are one of those 1-1 teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of those 1-1 teams, and we're going to talk about them. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost this past week to Seattle, and they didn't look good. I think Aaron Rodgers went 18 for 33, if I remember those stats correctly, right around 200 yards. And, so just a little over 50%, right? And I don't know if Seattle is that good. I know they're well coached because McDonald is the coach who we know very well from Baltimore. Should have been the head coach of Baltimore. But hey, whatever. Anyway, and so he could have put the clamps on Aaron Rodgers, so that could be a one-off. But I'm waiting to see what happens next in Pittsburgh, because you haven't really seen this Pittsburgh defense, who is loaded with talent. Again, I don't know who is in and out, right? I know Joey Porter Jr. was lost in game number 1. Don't know if he played this past week. I know Deshaun Elliott was lost. I know he didn't play this past week. And they didn't play well in the first game. So is this a trend that Pittsburgh's defense is not going to be as advertised, although they have a lot of name recognition? Ramsey, Slay, Watt, Queen? Or was this just a one-off and they'll get back on track? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think we're going to really know what teams are and what they're really made of until after game 4. Because if you got a new head coach, you got to get integrated. If you didn't play your starters in the offseason, you got to build continuity on the field. And if you are starting a new quarterback, you got to develop a rhythm. So we'll see. So let's get to Baltimore before we get into the NFC teams. Baltimore sits right in the middle of the AFC picture, right? In fact, because the Bengals are 2-0, the Baltimore Ravens sit behind the Bengals in the division. The Bengals have a division win. We have a division win. Now, the Bengals are going to be without Joe Burrow for some time, so I don't think they're going to be able to keep up this winning, right? You can't lose that kind of talent and just keep winning, unless that says that the offense is just that talented, and no matter who plays quarterback, they could still win, which then becomes an indictment on Joe Burrow. But when it comes to the Ravens, right, I think that we played two different types of teams, meaning the brand of football. We understood that the Cleveland Browns were going to try and run the ball, complemented with the pass, play hard-nosed defense. Very, very similar to our mentality. The Buffalo Bills, that's exactly what they want to do, in fact. But they had to turn to Josh Allen. He put the cape on and got the job done. And so I think that this upcoming game, where I think we're going to face the most balanced team thus far in this season, will tell us who we are. But at 1-1, I think this past game spoke a lot. It spoke a lot about being able to make an adjustment. It spoke a lot about being able to recognize that being the coaching staff and make the necessary play calls, make the necessary game plan, the necessary scheme, right? You saw that the Baltimore Ravens blitzed more in game 2 than they did in game 1. You saw the Baltimore Ravens use Roquan Smith in different ways, blitzing them up the middle, not putting them in pass coverage as much. You saw them go to Teddy Buchanan early. You saw them bench, basically, Jair Alexander and run with Awuzie, and it paid dividends. And so, those are defensive things. You saw them not be able to get the run game going and rely on the pass, but not abort the run. And so that says they were willing to try different things, right? And that's what we've been asking for, right? Be willing to try new things, be willing to make adjustments. They still haven't stopped the Zay Flowers sweep, right? There is other guys on this roster who could do that. You don't want to keep using your best wide receiver in order to do those end arounds and jet sweeps, things of that nature. You got guys who are faster, LaJohntay Wester and Devontae Walker, both are faster. They could run those. Do not use your best wide receiver to do those kind of plays. But hey, if they can't hear us, they can't hear us. I think that this past game as well for the Baltimore Ravens, you saw everything. You saw everything on display. You saw special teams make a play to put us in good field position. You saw the kicker kick with 100% effectiveness. You saw the defense get 2 takeaways. You saw the defense put points up. And then you saw the offense be able to move the ball down the field against a tough defense and put points on the board. And so you really saw everything you needed to see. I do believe that the Cleveland Browns defense is better than what their record shows. They just don't have an offense to help them. So for us to be able to put up 34 offensive points against that defense, that speaks loudly, right? Let's jump to the NFC, right? When you look at the NFC, Tampa Bay is 2-0. Look like Baker has definitely found his groove. He's surrounded by weapons, good run game, solid offensive line, and a solid defense, which we saw on display last night against the Texans. And so I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have staying power. In fact, I think they run away with that division. When you look at the Los Angeles Rams, also 2-0, they beat the Texans, and I can't remember who they beat this past week. Matthew Stafford, although he came into the season with a hurt back, he's still getting it done. He looks real good throwing to Devontae Adams and also Puka, and they're trying to run the ball. And so I think that's going to be able to keep Matthew Stafford upright. They're playing solid defense. They got those 2 young rookies they drafted last year who are still putting pressure on the quarterback, making life difficult. And I think that the Los Angeles Rams have staying power. Surprise team from the same division, the West, the Arizona Cardinals are 2-0. I don't think they have staying power. I watched a little bit of that game when they played the Carolina Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers aren't that good, but they were up big, like 27-3. And the Carolina Panthers had every opportunity to get this game home, and they just couldn't. But that just speaks to how bad Carolina is. But the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think have the staying power. I think when the competition ramps up, when they face the Seahawks, when they face the Rams, when they face Green Bay, when they face Philadelphia, if they're going to play those teams, I think you're going to really see the Arizona Cardinals' true colors. When I keep looking around the NFC, Philadelphia Eagles are 2-0. They won against the Cowboys, where they didn't look excellent offensively, and they won against the Chiefs, where they didn't look offensively excellent. And I don't know if they're just tired. You know, when you play late into the season and you play in the Super Bowl, all those kind of things, sometimes you come into the next season lethargic. I don't know if that's what that is, or they've just taken a step back a little bit. You don't really see Saquon Barkley patrolling the edge like you did last season. And again, it's still 2 games in. You don't really see Jalen Hurts going deep with Brown and Smith. And you don't really see this defense really putting on the performance they put on last year. They're still good, still have good talent, but the back end looks a little different when it comes to guarding the pass, and the front end looks a little different. But nevertheless, they're still the team to beat in the NFC East, right? Green Bay, which is the last team I'm going to talk about. Green Bay looks to be the best team happening right now in the NFC. They came out and beat a quality team in the Washington Commanders. They really kind of shut down, minimized that offense in game number 1. And then they came out and played a really good game in game number 2. And Green Bay has everything that you want. Solid offensive line, young quarterback who has the arm talent to do anything he wants to with the ball, young receivers, speed to go deep, size to go across the middle, a good running back in Josh Jacobs, and a defense that is really good from front to back. And you now see why they went out and traded for Micah Parsons. It really looks like a deal we should have got done, because even though Micah Parsons isn't leading the league in sacks, his presence is being felt when he's on the field. I mean, you can absolutely see his impact. And so I think Green Bay right now is the favorite in the NFC North, and I think is a front runner to be in the NFC Championship. So man, that's what I've learned, man, over the last 2 weeks of football. And we're going to do this thing every week where we go around the league and talk about what we're seeing, talk about the wins and losses. So as we close out, man, let me do some housekeeping really quick. If you're here this long, hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. You guys know we've been planning for a name change. We wanted to get that done before the season started. and we haven't. We kind of made name change synonymous with the 1,000 subscriber mark. And whether we do that or not, the name will change no matter what by week 4. But if you're here and you like what we do, honest conversation, we're only talking about ball, nothing off the field, unbiased, hit that subscribe button, right? We got some segments coming out, man. Some of them are pertaining to after we change the name. Some of them will begin to roll out now, right? So, man, help us get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. And until the next video, I'm out.